welcome to all who've come. And as you know, we generally start a few minutes after 7 because people do turn up for many minutes after 7, right? And it's the Habitat Programs Division is kind enough to allow us to use this hall, and the only time limit we have is our friends who are taking the video recording. They generally like to leave by 8:30, but we generally manage to carry on beyond that time. Now, for those who are perhaps new to this series, I would just like to say that we've been doing this now for nearly 3 years, over 3 years, I think. And it started off as a kind of discussion group amongst architects about 4 or 5 years ago. But then we decided that it was architects by themselves are very boring. So we thought that we'd have to sort of open up the thing to everyone else, and also try and provoke architects to think a little more seriously about the society within which they work and which technically they're supposed to serve, their clientele, as it were. And we therefore invited people to come and talk here who were not architects. Architects and planners also, but also lots of people who were not architects, and which included people from the arts and history and sociology and scientists and all that, in order that we build up a kind of slightly more, a richer picture of the kind of constituency that the architects are meant to serve. So with this, we have somehow managed to do it monthly for about 3.5 years, I think. And this is what, the 45th or something, is it, talk? 46th talk in the series. And we are now, for the last few months, very ably assisted by our communications partners, Epistle Communications, who managed to tell many more people about this event. As a result, our attendance has also increased, and also helping us to document it. The Habitat Center itself creates a video recording of every event, and we are now slowly putting them up on YouTube one by one so that they are available to a much larger audience. So this is the sort of background of this series that we hold every month. And today I have great pleasure to welcome Vikram Vyas, who is a scientist, theoretical physicist, isn't that right? And who has been doing a lot of work in the voluntary sector as well. He's currently chairman of the Ajit Foundation, which is a voluntary organization based in Bikaner, and has been working with, well, he'll tell you more about it. I'm not qualified really to tell you in greater detail. But Vikram is going to talk about the subject which I think is very important to all of us, about rainwater harvesting. And I will join the audience, and I think I'll leave you, Vikram, to enough introduction.
Yes.
I think. Okay.
Okay, I'll start. First of all, I wanted to thank this Ashish and Architecture and Society group to invite me and to talk with you about some of the things which I've been doing for quite a long time. So I would encourage you to stop and ask questions even while I'm giving a talk. You don't have to wait till the end. Of course, you can ask at the end, but if there's a part, because there will be some parts which will be technical in the sense I'll be telling you how I do what I do. So I wouldn't mind at all. In fact, I would very much like if you would like to stop me at any minute during my talk, and I can stop and try and answer to your question. So what I'm going to talk about is essentially about rainwater harvesting systems. I'll be focusing on the rainwater harvesting systems in which water is stored in a covered tank. So which for me means there is no evaporation loss. That is, I can neglect evaporation loss. And that typically, in Rajasthan, we call that tanka. And so that's the word tanka. And the part sim will hopefully become clear as we go through this talk. I'm going to first just remind you, I know most of you know it quite well, the long history of rainwater harvesting and So while I was preparing for this talk, I was looking for things which I didn't know. I mean, places where I didn't know they would be doing rainwater harvesting, apart from Rajasthan, which of course I'm familiar, and which is the picture at the bottom. But the picture at the top is very interesting. It is probably one of the oldest known rainwater harvesting system. It's like more than 2,000 years old, and it was a large cistern which supplied the city of Visaf in Syria, which is 2,000 years old. And as you can see the scale, that it was a humongous cistern in which the rainwater from a very large area was collected. And of course, the bottom one is very familiar to most of us, the collecting rainwater and storing it. The key thing for me would be that both of them are structures in which you store water in a covered tank. So there's very little evaporation loss. Again, as I said, I was searching for more examples, and I was very happy to find an example by Professor Kavas Kapadia, who was at School of Planning, what I learned from that article. And he did research on Parsi houses in Gujarat, in Bharuch, in southern Gujarat. And that was quite amazing what he found. It seems when Parsis came from Iran, they brought with them this whole tradition of rainwater harvesting. And many of these houses in Gujarat, in Bharuch, have a huge tank with the sizes reaching, as he says, 20 feet by 60 feet by 12 feet. That's almost 400 cubic meter. And they were, again, is an example of tradition which we have in Rajasthan, but another place where they evolved similar tradition. They had some indigenous herbal mix which would cover the tanka, which would make it waterproof, seal minor cracks, prevent bacterial growth. And these were under the living room. For example, in this picture, which is from his article, this is the dining room, and under the dining room is the huge tanka where the water was stored. So that kept the room also cool. So these are many, many examples we have. Now this is more contemporary example, closer home, from a house in Bangalore. Actually, this is house of my mother-in-law. In Bangalore, as in slowly in many cities, it has become a law that you have to construct a rainwater harvesting system.